All right. Thank you, everyone. My name is Jared, and I'm glad everyone can hear me okay. Welcome to the webinar. I'm an account executive here at AdBeat, and today I'm going to show you how to use AdBeat to analyze Trump and Biden's advertising strategies. So I think you're going to learn a lot. So let's get started. Here is a quick look at our agenda. First, we're going to look at advertiser analysis and review Trump and Biden's top traffic sources, creatives, landing pages, and publishers they're advertising on. Where we will then take both Trump and Biden plus other similar advertisers and plug them into our compare tool to really dive deep and see how the candidates are trying to win the election. Then we'll move on to movers and shakers, where we'll hone in on the politics category and see the advertisers with the largest upward and downward shift in spend and impressions. So this is my favorite section because there's a lot of important data to pay attention to. And from there, we'll move on to keyword search, where we'll type in some important keywords and get a list of advertisers and creatives using those keywords in their ads, landing pages, and much more. So this is something no other tool has, and it's going to help you take advantage of a competitor's creative strategy. And finally, we'll have a Q&A session at the end where I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about the presentation. You can put those in the chat box or the Q&A. Yeah, be sure to write them down and so you don't forget them. So before we start looking at our data, I wanted to give you a little background on how we gather it. AdBeat has really broad and deep coverage when it comes to display advertising. We have data for 26 different countries and all of the ad networks that are important right now. And we regularly update our data every 48 hours. And all of this is important because we always want to make sure we're using the best data set possible when doing our competitive research. So let's go ahead and jump into the AdBeat platform over here. Okay, so I'd like to look up Trump's advertising first. So we'll go ahead and we'll type in donaldtrump.com. And now we're going to be on the advertiser profile page here for Trump. And we can see that Trump is spending millions on display advertising. And our goal here is to learn how Trump is spending those ad dollars to try and win the election. So let's dive in. The first thing I want to make sure of is that we're looking at the last 90 days. So we can focus only on spend and impressions during the last 3 months. I can see his top network is YouTube, and they are also running heavily on Google Display. And I can see from this bar graph down here that 67% of his ads are video. So that's definitely something I'm going to take a closer look at. So I also want to see when Trump is scaling up or pulling back his ad spend and impressions. So to smooth this out, I'm going to change this graph from day to week. And if I hover over the graph over here, I can see which device types he's targeting. And what's really interesting, actually, is something I don't see that often, is that the spend is pretty evenly split here between desktop and mobile, a month or two out leading up to the election. But it looks like as we get closer here over the past few weeks or so, past 2 or 3 weeks, he spent about like twice as much or 2.5 times as much on mobile than desktop. And so, yeah, you can see all that all right here. And then this can pretty much indicate that he might be having success with his ads and landing page forms on mobile than desktop. So I'm really curious now, after taking a look at his ad spend over here and networks he's spending on, to see which states he's targeting the most. So if we scroll down, we can see here that he's targeting California, Massachusetts, New York, and other states known to vote Democrat. And so that's really interesting because he's likely trying to capture more donations maybe from voters from his landing pages. California typically votes Democrat, so this is a way Trump maybe to get some data on Republicans in the state and use that later on. But as we review Trump's creatives, we're going to look at desktop, mobile, and pre-roll ads to see what we can find, and if he is asking for donations or what he's doing on these lead forms on his landing pages. Especially different than Biden. And we'll analyze both, and maybe you can find something really cool to use in your own campaigns. too. I think you're really gonna find this really interesting. So if we go ahead and click on mobile over here, and I'm gonna change this to the last 30 days. And wow, immediately it's extremely clear that the messaging is quite strong, kind of what you'd expect to get that click through here from Trump. We can see the ads are about the media, polls, Biden, and we can go ahead and click on an ad unit here, and that'll break it out separately, just like we did. And you can see if he's scaling up, like you can see this trend graph, this trend line here. And then you can take a look at the landing page he's sending traffic to just by clicking on it. You have, Trump right here, very clear image on the right-hand side of the page, and just want you to keep this in mind as we look at Biden too, kind of the differences. And it could be, maybe a form or a type of page that you could use for your own campaigns. But you see Trump standing here, and you have his form, very just radio buttons here, very simple form, but just a lot of questions. And so he's getting a lot of data from his client, from his prospective voters over here. And if we go back here to the advertiser profile for the creative, we can also save this ad, and you can put this in an ad locker here, and we can see Trump's top creatives. We can add that here and save it, and always come back to it and save and just go back to that locker and see all the ads we saved and take a look at them later. But it's just something really interesting. And yeah, so one more thing I think actually about that page, we can click on another one. They'll probably be very similar. Yeah, so you have him here too. So you can kind of already get an idea of what he's doing and what his messaging is here. But something I didn't really think of until now is, he's not only using this form and the other radio form, but probably getting the data on other voters, Republican or Democrat, who knows, and then maybe using that on the Republican side to help get or send out mass emails and texts to people who are running for, Republican Party candidates for other states, and so to help them get votes too and get elected. So many things going on here. It's pretty crazy. The page is done really well. But let's go back and let's take a look at video, because we know he's mainly focused on video. You can see the ads here. If we, and something actually to note is that all the ads are ordered by ad spend. And if you're a creative agency, this is a great view to see what an advertiser is up to. And I like to look at the data in a different view. I like to click on this icon over here, and it lays out all the creatives really nicely. And you can see the incredible amount of spend that he's doing on video. And then this shows you the landing pages he's split testing, and typically the landing page that has more spend, in this case, is a pretty good example. This one's probably converting really well for him right here. And again, you can click on it. And for the video ads, you can actually click on the video ads and watch it play. And you can download the ad and see all the sites they're running on. Looks like YouTube is mainly his main traffic source, but what's really cool and something nobody else offers is by clicking on channels, we can actually see the top YouTube channels that he's targeting here. It looks very centered on rock, maybe metal music, wrestling, religion. This is really valuable because I can now use this information when setting targeting on my own YouTube campaigns and understanding the demographic this creative is meant for, especially if it's an advertiser I'm competing against. So that's pretty helpful. Let's get out of here. So since Trump is such a large advertiser, I'd like to see a breakout of campaigns he's running, not just creatives. So if we go to campaigns over here and look for ones that are spending the most, or maybe some recent campaigns that just launched, we can take a look at that. Especially as the election gets closer, we can click on new campaigns. Wrong for North Carolina, the official issue approval poll. And a campaign is a group of ads all directing to the same landing page. So all you have to do is click on one, and you'll be able to see the entire media mix, creatives, and publishers, just like we went over, but on a specific campaign level relating to each one of these titles here. And this is pretty cool because, just like we saw, you can see new campaigns he launched and some campaigns he's been running for quite some time. So the last thing I want to cover on the advertiser profile here is how to find out what publishers Trump is advertising on. So I'm going to click on publishers, and I'm super interested in this because the publisher section is actually showing me where their ads are being shown and the audience they are showing them to. So immediately there are sites that I expect to see, such as YouTube, Breitbart, and Town Hall, which makes sense because they're on these sites, they're looking up news and information relating to the election. It's a perfect time to place an ad for Trump to attract people to his campaigns. That's his demographic. But you know what? This is also pretty interesting here with PCH, fan fiction, because you take sites like PCH and fan fiction, it tells me he's also reaching a broader audience as well. And we'll take a look at Biden's publishers and we'll see if he's doing the same thing. So if I was running against Trump, all these sites are really interesting to me. There are pages and pages of sites here too. And one cool thing we could do if we wanted to, we could grab this entire list and click on this page icon over here to download it. And you could download it to a CSV, and you can target the same sites on each network, and this is going to save you a lot of time. So that is Trump's advertiser analysis on his page here, driving traffic to donaldjtrump's.com domain. But now we're going to go to Biden, take a look and see what he's up to. So I'm going to type in joebiden.com. And we can see that it looks like 95% of his campaign is targeting video networks like YouTube here. And he also seems to be targeting, let's take a look actually. Looks like he's targeting a lot more desktop, 2.6 versus 1.2, 3.4 million versus 2.1 million. So that's pretty interesting. He's targeting more desktop than mobile. Looks like he also has a good mix of native in here. Outbrain, Taboola. We didn't see any native for Trump, so that's something to pay attention to as we go through this and see what his ads are. And landing pages, are they different for native versus YouTube or other display campaigns he's running? Something else we can take a look at is his DMA targeting here. So it looks like he's mainly targeting Florida and swing states, where Trump was mainly targeting Democratic states. So that's really interesting, kind of an idea maybe on where he's already polling. So that's something to take a look at. But let's jump right into desktop creatives because we know he's spending more on desktop. And we can click on YouTube because a large percentage of his campaign is being run on YouTube here for his advertiser profile. And we can go ahead and click on any one of these ads to watch it, just like we did for Trump. But I'm going to switch it to this view, and it looks like he's just starting to scale up here for this ad. Let's take a look, see what it is. So you can hear it. I just have a headset on. You can see the landing pages he's sending traffic to, totally different in this case. You can see he's literally directing traffic to joebiden.com, which is his strategy. He's asking for a donation immediately. I don't see, so here's the lead form here. It's almost hidden in a way. Totally different strategy than Trump, where Trump has the lead form and his image on the right-hand side. So you can get an idea of the differences here just by looking at that one landing page and taking 5 or 10 minutes to do it. And think about doing this for your own competitors. It's so easy just to see what they're doing and optimizing your strategy. But let's take a look. Publishers, again, mainly YouTube. So let's click channels and see the channels he's advertising on. So that's interesting. He's targeting pop, top hits music, totally opposite again of Trump, totally opposite. And so you can use this for, placement targeting on YouTube if this is helpful to you. But let's go ahead and take a look at similar profiles. I think we might uncover something interesting here. So this is great. This is so awesome because I don't have to do any Googling or digging to find out other advertisers that are similar to the domain we entered, which is joebiden.com. And what classifies these advertisers here as similar profiles, similar advertisers, is that they are using similar keywords in their ads as joebiden.com. And wow, some of these look like super PACs advertisers for Joe Biden. You can see that here. This is a great way to find out what other advertisers are doing to drive awareness to his campaign. And I'm sure if we looked at Trump's similar profiles, we would find super PAC advertisers for Trump too. That's something really to keep in mind. And if we go ahead and take a look at publishers, we can see some news sites here that we'd expect to see, like YouTube and CNN and Yahoo. But, you know, again, what's super interesting, PCH is also on here as well, which is something that Trump is doing. So they're probably competing heavily for inventory. I kind of want to go back actually to creatives and just take a quick look here. If you remember, Trump's creatives were a little bit more risque, or a lot more really, than Biden. And you can kind of see he has the mask, he has his slogan here, targeting a certain demographic. Very almost standard creative in a way. And if we go back to, actually let's switch this to maybe the last 30 days. So very standard, you know, almost regular display creatives that you'd expect to see. I want to jump back to Trump really quickly. And I want to go a little bit deeper in his creatives. I'm going to change this to the last 30 days. I think your guys are going to find this really interesting. You saw these creatives here, but if we go back a little bit further, maybe a few pages in, maybe we're going to find something pretty interesting about his ads that we wouldn't expect to see. So we have, you know, ads like this. He's really targeting. It says we don't need Joe Biden. He's using an emoji. Like, these are very unique ads, putting it lightly. And so you can see it's a totally different strategy than what Biden is doing here. So typical clickbait type of arbitrage message right here. Yeah, it's just very unique creatives, and so it's something to keep in mind. All right, so let's go back to Joe Biden, and let's just recap a little bit about what we've learned so far. I hope you're really enjoying this. We've learned that advertiser analysis is a great way to understand how an advertiser is driving traffic to their site and what their advertising goals are. Trump and Biden were great examples to review. We learned that in the last 3 months, Trump was spending a little bit more than Biden, but Biden really started spending in the last couple of weeks and now is outspending Trump, as you can see. Their top traffic sources are YouTube and Google and DV360. And interestingly enough, Trump is targeting desktop and mobile fairly equally, while Biden is targeting mainly desktop users. And they are targeting, as we saw, specific YouTube channels that relate to their audience or potential audience that may vote for the other candidate. So we now have more than enough insights from this data to test out campaigns based on what my competition is doing. So I'd love to compare Trump and Biden and their super PAC websites in one report to understand the opportunity to scale on publishers that, you know, one side might be missing out on. So if we go to tools over here, and we go to the compare tool, we already learned in similar profiles who the super PACs are for Trump and Biden, and I've already saved them as a group right here, and I've already put these advertisers in. And so AdBeat is going to instantly show us how they are all spending over time by just moving our mouse over the spend graph. And this is really helpful because I can log in, get a quick look on who is scaling or who is pulling back their spend without having to go into each advertiser profile, especially in a, you know, post-COVID world, who's starting to spend again, who's scaling back. This is very, very helpful to see. And if I wanted a good indication of who has the most unique creatives and what they are, I would scroll down and see that data here. So this is super interesting. You can see the site. I think this is Trump. Yeah, this is Trump. There was a huge change in creative, the amount of unique creatives here in these weeks. So that's pretty interesting to see. Maybe he stopped running a campaign. Maybe he started a new one, and you go to Trump and you could see that. And then we can go down to share a voice and see that data here. And all this data is really great, but I need this in a report. So I can go ahead and go to the top here, click on create a report, and you can download this into a deck or a PDF. And now I've already gone ahead and downloaded it into a PDF. I'm going to close these up here, and you can see the report right here. And this is really cool because it goes into detail about Trump and Biden, their competitors, but really how can they scale? So there's a lot of important data in this report, and I'm going to scroll down through it. You're going to see very similar data from the screen we just saw on AdBeat, but in the PDF, you get much more detailed information. I'm actually going to scroll through, excuse me, the rest of the report here to the bottom. This is the best part of the report, I think, because this is showing you the shared publishers that they have in common. And it's also showing you opportunities to scale. So looks like some of these sites are not advertising on PCH or other ones, but this is really, really great to understand where they're advertising and where they could be missing out on pockets of inventory. So let's move on to my favorite part of AdBeat here. Let's go to keyword search. And so if I go ahead and type in a keyword Trump, I can see all the creatives that have the keyword phrase Trump on it. Oh, I typed in truck. That worked just as well. And if I click see all over here, I can see all the advertisers that are using the word Trump in their creatives. And if I want to know more information about that advertiser that's using the phrase Trump, I can just click on the creative and open it. So we can take a look at this one. It looks like this is maybe Lower My Bills, using Trump in their ads here. You can click on any one of these advertisers. Let's do, I don't know, definition.org. So you can see it's a arbitrage site using Trump in the ads here. But I think what's really cool is you can also change creative to landing page. So you can see all the creatives and all the advertisers here that are using Trump in their landing pages. So we have this one here, coronavirus.gov. If you went to it, you would see Trump somewhere in the landing page. So that's really helpful to see. It's really great also for finding other advertisers in this space, and you can see what their goals are just by looking at the creatives and searching by phrases. So the last thing I want to mention is movers and shakers. I see your questions. Thank you so much. I promise I will go back and answer them at the end. So keep asking them. I love the questions here. So movers and shakers, this is an incredible tool. It's really turning our data into insights. It shows you which categories advertisers, campaigns, and creatives are breaking out in higher or lower spend and impressions. And so if we go ahead and click on categories, and if we do law, government, and politics, we can see the advertisers with the largest shift in spend here over this period of time. And this is great because I've never heard of iwillvote.com. And we can click into them and see their creative, see what they're doing. You can see Trump in the last, during this period, has spent quite a bit of money scaling up his campaign. But not only can we see the upward movers, but we can see the downward movers as well and see any advertisers that are decreasing their spend. And you can do this in your category. We can also take a look at the creatives. And you can see some of the creatives that are moving up as well. So maybe if you're struggling to create some new copy or content, either for your client or if you're the advertiser, this is a really great way to see who else is scaling in your industry and what they're doing right now. And then you can also focus on campaigns, or you can see all the categories as a whole for this specific time period. So just by taking a few minutes here, movers and shakers, it really helped us identify advertisers and creatives that are doing really well, and maybe some that are not doing so well. But let's review again what we've learned here. So we figured out who Biden and Trump's super PACs are by looking at similar profiles and what their messaging is. And normally this would take a lot of time Googling, but we found it out in one click. And we also played around with keyword search to get a better sense of who is using the phrase Trump in their creatives, what their messaging is, what do their landing pages look like. We also learned how to see which advertising category is scaling up or scaling down for a certain week, month, or quarter. And with these insights, I think we're really ready to help our team scale and hit our advertising goals. And so I would love to finish with a Q&A. And if you do want a one-on-one demo walkthrough, I'm happy to do that. Just shoot me an email and we'll figure out a time and we'll go through it all together. But go ahead now and enter your questions in. I'll start answering them. Go to the top here. So first question is, how do you target your ads on publishers like Town Hall and Fanfiction? Is it as simple as targeting those particular websites via Google Ads or paying them to get your ads sponsored? Great question. If we go back to AdBeat here, they were both advertising on them. So let's go ahead and click on Trump. And we're going to click on publishers. And you can see the advertisers, the publishers, sorry, you were talking about here. But your question was, how do you advertise on them? So if we click on all networks here, and if we click all by network, we can actually see the network they're using to target and to advertise on that site. So if we click on Fanfiction and click on top placement URLs, you can actually target this domain here, this publisher in Google Display Network as a targeting option. And then you can see the placement URLs, you can export them here and just target these placement URLs in your campaign. Hope that answers your question. Let's go to the next one. Can I see how the landing page on Biden's campaign looks like? Maybe his landing pages are not optimized for mobile. I did show one, but I'm happy to go back and take a look. Maybe his landing pages are not optimized for mobile. It's possible. So we can click on mobile here, and I'm gonna go to last 30 days. Let's take a look at the grid view. It doesn't seem like he's got a lot running for standard ads, so let's go back to video, and let's change this to new ads. And new ads are actually ads that just launched in the last 7 days. So you can see that and click on the landing page here. Again, it's a home page, but I do want to show you, if we click on landing pages, you can actually see all of the landing pages that he's driving traffic to. So just by clicking on one, you can see it. Again, this is interesting because Trump was on the right, his form and Trump's form was on the left. Biden and Harris is on the left here, and they're asking for a donation immediately. So this is interesting. Yeah. So here's a great way to see the landing pages. I hope that helps. Can you suggest a good DSP? A DSP? I can't go with Google, I guess. The majority of spend on Trump and Biden's campaign has been on YouTube. Can you break it down by channel similarly to the way you can see it at the URL level? Yes. So if we're on Joe Biden, if we go to desktop and video, we can see by creative here, the top channels that he's targeting. Was that your question? Does that answer your question? This is amazing. If we click on publishers here, you can also do it as a whole for YouTube right here. So I think that answers your question. Can we get this webinar video link to share with our team? Yes, absolutely. Let's see what other questions are. Is there any way to set notifications to see when Trump or Biden launch a new campaign or launch on a new network? Yes. So if we scroll to the top overview here in advertiser profile, if we click on follow, You can set an alert. So anytime that Biden launches a new campaign and the spend exceeds a certain dollar amount or over a certain period of flight, certain period of days, you can get an alert either emailed to you or in your AdBeat inbox or both. It's totally up to you. That's how you get an alert. Next question, how many ads do you capture? We capture 2 million ads every single day. To give you an idea on how expansive our data is, we can click on all networks and you can see all the networks that we cover. So I hope that answers your question. You mentioned Biden was targeting native. How do we just see the native ads he was advertising? Sure. So if we go back to Biden again, we saw here he was targeting Outbrain and Taboola. So let's go ahead. I'm going to click on Outbrain up here. Oops, sorry. Click on month. Looks like it was desktop. So I'm going to click on desktop and native. And here you can organize it by native network. You can see the image and text. And that's how you organize the ads by native. Doesn't seem like he's really running anything, and we confirm that above here. Nothing in October so far for Outbrain. And for Taboola, again, nothing in October. It looks like he stopped native. Maybe it wasn't working for him, or maybe it was a big push during these months. I'm not sure. A few more questions. Let's see. Can you go over movers and shakers again? Yes. So if we click on movers and shakers, this is a really great tool. If we click on a different category, maybe finance, let's say you can see all the top advertisers in finance scaling their ad spend right now. So that's really, really interesting. You can even break it down by, let's say, credit. So I know we're totally shifting from Biden and Trump, but just wanted to give you a different example because you can use it for general research by industry and really taking a look at the categories that are making the biggest upward and downward trends. I think it's really going to help steer your advertising in a successful way. Can we run a report just for specific platforms? Can we do a report just for mobile, not display? Yes. So if we go back to an advertiser, and you can do this anywhere in AdBeat, it doesn't just have to be on the advertiser profile, but if we click on create report, you can choose the device type here, and then just create the report, ad spend impressions. Okay, a bunch more questions. Some funny questions in here. Let's see. How do you calculate ad spend? Sure. So we crawl the web on a massive scale and capture the ad servers, publishers, and pages the ad is running on. We also scan where on the page the ad appears, like above or below the fold. Then we have millions of different data points that get fed into our algorithm that estimate the spend, and that algorithm is then calibrated by comparing exact spend numbers from some of our partners. So the estimate is pretty good, and it should get you in the ballpark or much closer for most advertisers here. Let's see, what other questions? A few more questions, 2 more questions. Okay, next question is there a way to see on fan fiction the advertisers that are also spending there? Yes. So if you, okay, so if you take a publisher like fan fiction and click on the publisher side, you can see who you're going to be competing against or bidding against when advertising on this site. And you can also see different ways to advertise on this site as well. And this goes for any of the publishers we capture. It looks like most of the revenues through GDN, DV360, the Trade Desk, and then you can click on similar profiles and you can see by clicking on publishers, other publishers that are similar. So maybe this site's working for you really well. And you can see other publishers in the same space. And if we click on advertisers here, you can see all the advertisers spending on this publisher. It's likely really helpful. And actually, one thing that happened when I typed in fan fiction up here, you can see this breakout of our universal keyword search, or universal search, sorry. It's really awesome because if you type in anything you want, if we type in Fandango, for example, you can see the advertiser and the keyword and publisher, but you can see the campaigns as well, just like we saw in the advertiser profile. All right, maybe one more question. Is there a way to see the top advertisers on YouTube? Yes, so if you wanted to see click top advertisers, the top advertisers on YouTube or any network, you can select all networks up here, YouTube, and then you can see the top advertisers, and then you can see the top advertisers within a certain category on YouTube. So if you go back to politics, you can see, wow, the trend line here, and you can even go down even further. And everything, again, you can create a report for PDF or a CSV. Okay. And, again, if you do have any other questions, maybe some I didn't get to, or if you want to walk through of AdBeat, shoot me an email. I'm happy to do it. And yeah, thank you guys so much for attending the webinar today. This has been great, and I hope to see you on the next one. So thank you so much, and we will definitely send the recording out. Have a great day.